Hello everybody, welcome back to my creative space. This is Emma sitting here in Cumbria. It's a typical Cumbrian day here today. It's summer, so it's a bit rainy and a bit grey and a bit dreich and a bit chilly. So I've got my cardigan back on. Great summer standby, is it? Nice warm cardigan, isn't it? I don't mind, you know, the weather is what the weather is, and if we didn't have the weather we have, what on earth would we all talk about? To me, it's a real connector, you know, when you go anywhere, if you're standing in the queue at the supermarket, you can just say, oh, it's a such and such a day, isn't it? So if it was the same every day, we just wouldn't have that. So I think it's pretty cool, really. And I would much rather have cool weather than hot weather. I'm not a hot weather person, although it is nice, isn't it, to sit out in the garden and just have a bit of warmth on your bones. And I'm sure there will be some of that. We've got time yet. There's time yet for the weather to sort of sort itself out. So I'm thrilled. Thank you very much for your lovely comments last week about my bowl. I was really thrilled to get it finished. It was really exciting to start with something that was sort of old and a bit like kind of, I'm not in love with this anymore. And you know, I've just changed it up and it's become this very vibrant thing. I loved making the flowers for it. I loved fiddling around with the leaves, and it was just, you know, just fun to do. And the stitching of it is always fun, because doing a bowl, you've kind of got your head in the bowl trying to manipulate it all. It's really quite good fun. So again, in my house, it's a bit like reflecting in my life, what's going on in my life. I've been getting rid of some old furniture. We had a little outbreak of woodworm, so the pieces of furniture have gone. But I have to say, most of our furniture has been with us for many, many years, and came from the auction, came from the charity shops. You know, little bits of wooden furniture. And I used to say, oh, I love that little cupboard, bring it home. And my poor long-suffering husband had to sort of fettle it up for me with bits of wood. And the famous one was a three-legged cupboard that came, that he had to sort of try and fettle up somehow for me and add bits of wood on. Lots of tongue and groove was very, very popular. Sort of a country shabby chic style was what we went for, because I thought, well, if everything's battered and bashed anyway and looks shabby, then you're not going to worry about what happens to it. It's quite a cool way to live your life, really. But something's come to an end inside of me, I think, and it's really reflected in my home. So we've been buying some lovely new furniture, treating ourselves, starting afresh. And when I set up my new creative space, which I will be doing, I don't know when, but I will be doing it, and I will show you what I'm going to do when I get to that point. So we've been making, I've never made flat pack furniture up in a big way. I know a lot of people do. We've had bits and pieces down the years. I think when I was a student, I probably had, you know, flat pack from various places. But this has been a serious flat pack marathon. And my use of an Allen key has improved hugely over the last few weeks. But it's great. I've got some really lovely new things around me. It feels like a fresh start. I'm sort of appreciating me and having some new things, which for me is quite unusual. And it's lovely, but they're kind of mixing. It's not been a big excitement of, oh, a whole new room. It's been like, oh, a new piece of furniture in this corner. How lovely is that? And it's mingling it in with the old. So it's been old and new mingled in together. And the old stuff had to go. It really had. And some of the chairs, actually, the kitchen chairs, were ones, again, they were secondhand from my dad, who got them secondhand from somewhere else. We've had them for donkey's years. I was literally sitting on a chair that had no, the seat wasn't a whole seat. It just kind of had a piece of fabric over, and the base had broken years ago, so I had two cushions on it. It's been fine, but suddenly it wasn't fine, and I've got a beautiful new yellow chair to sit in, and it's absolutely lovely, and I appreciate it. I think when you've had old things, you appreciate the new things all the more. Twice the pleasure, the anticipation of them coming, screwing little bits together to make them, and then the enjoyment of them. It's just lovely. Every time I look around my kitchen now, it's getting more and more yellow, and I'm loving that. So it's all very exciting. So down here today, I'm just going to show you, I'm making a small thing for our exhibition, and it's just a letter. So every year we have an exhibition or two, as it has happened this year, and we make a little sort of a sign out of individual letters, that we all make an individual letter about an A4 size, and it spells out the name of the exhibition. And it's a really nice fun little thing to do, and it comes together. It's like you know, a group little project that we do, and we've got a selection now of letters, so we don't actually have to make new letters all the time. We just kind of, you know, use up some of the old ones. So I'm going to show you that today, just a bit of fun. So thank you for being here. Let's get on and do a bit of sewing. So this is going to be like baking a cake today. This is the ingredients. This is what I'm trying to make. It says make a letter. And what it means is make a letter that's the letter A. And it's got to be an A4 size. So that's my instructions, if you like. And I'm assembling my ingredients here. I've got some nice wadding. This is cotton curtain interlining, but it's quite a thick one, this one, for a change. I've got some stabilizer, some tearaway stabilizer, and these will be cut to A4. They're kind of roughly A4 at the moment. I need to sort of trim them off a little bit. I've done myself a little drawing. This is a very little drawing. Now, I don't usually do drawings, as you know. I tend to just launch in and make things. But I just kind of was feeling a bit autumnal, and I'm thinking a bit, what I'd found in my stash was some drawings of some seed heads, and that kind of inspired me to think, well, I think this might be a letter, but I think it might have some seed heads kind of coming out of it. So I'm going to find some fabrics next, and we'll see where we're going to go with it. Okay, so this was the fabric that I saw in my stash that I thought, I'm not going to use this for anything else. It's basically a scrap of upholstery fabric. I really like it. I think it's quite funky. So I have cut myself a letter A from it. And here it is. Here's what I made earlier. And it can be either way. It can have the shiny side uppermost. And I think I'm going to have it that way. And then I've got some sort of autumn coloured scraps of fabric to make some kind of a base for it. I'm going to tinker around with these, and I can't quite, these are very ragged and very rough and ready, okay, but what happens if you use a little piece of magic, this helps me to look at it and go, oh yes, that's going to work. So I'm going to put my letter in. There's my letter. No, I wanted it the other way up, didn't I? I want it that side. I want this lovely shiny side uppermost, and then I can put this over it. I know it's not quite the right size, but if I hold it in the right place, I get a feeling for what's going on. Now the only thing is, if I do dark and then light, or light and then dark, and I'm wanting to do seed heads going all the way up, you get into some difficulties, because then you can't decide what colour your seed heads are going to be, unless of course they're going to be something outrageous, which they could be. I mean, I could do some really bonkers seed heads in some really outrageous colours, or I can keep it very simple. Let's just see what else we've got. So I could be doing some seed heads in something vibrant or fun. I'm just rustling some plastic over here because I've got a bag of scraps out. What else could we do? So you could be adding some crazy colours in if you wanted to do that. But I feel as though I just want it to be fairly simple. This is just a letter amongst other letters. So I think what I'm going to do actually is, here's a piece of fabric I made earlier. I think we'll just fiddle around with these a bit and see what we're going to do with them, what order they're going to go in. So I'm just basically going to make a dark background like this, but it's got interest because it's got different shades going on. Okay, so these are very raggedy, but that works for me. Let me just assemble things. That means the letter A is going to stand out. If I put that on it, you can sort of see. So I've got some interest. I like to make this an interesting project. It's not got to be boring. And it's developing as I go, and I think we'll do seed heads either behind or, you know, some, let's just get my piece of paper. I've got these little seed heads. So we could have seed heads just coming up to here, and we'll stitch the background. I think I'll stitch the background as though it's like a ploughed field. So I'm going to start with this. So let's just trim these fabrics down a little bit. This is such a fun and simple thing to be doing. It's a lovely sort of Sunday afternoon project. I'm just messing about. It's very liberating. Actually, that's not too bad, that one. That one might just about do. It possibly needs a little bit of an iron. Oops. Just trim that back a little bit. I think we'll have to give it a bit of a press, perhaps. Oh, I do like it. I quite like it crinkled. Do you know? No, let's leave it as it is. And then we've got this little bit. Now, this is not very big, this bit. I'm just wondering whether I've got another bit. So, these are the colours I'm going to use. They're quite similar, and they've got some nice shines and sheens going on with them. And I'm just going to pin this one on. And I'm going to pin this one on, and I'm going to go and stitch this on next. And then I'll add those two on as well. Very simple. Very simple, very easy. Let's go stitch it. Okay, so I've got my machine set up for free machine embroidery. I'm using an embroidery foot. I've lowered the feed dog teeth underneath, and I'm just going to do some very simple straight lines, straight-ish I should say. You could just use your normal foot and do this. I'm just trying to make it look kind of like a ploughed field like I have here. And if you want to know how to do this from the very beginning, if you've not done free machine embroidery before, you know, I've got a little playlist called Beginners. If you go and have a little look at that, that might get you going. And once you get going, really there'll be no stopping you, because free machining is just fun. And it's all about playing, really. It's about playing, but it is about practice. You do have to do it in order to get better at it, like anything else, like driving a car or learning a language or anything else. It's a skill. And but it is a skill which starts out very easily, and it can be wonky, it can be wobbly. It doesn't have to be immaculate and perfect. You know, I have spent a lot of years doing this, guys, okay? I'm sure you have too, if you're already a free machiner. You know, and it just comes, it's just like breathing now, but I can make it do what I want it to do, and so can you. So let's get started. Just going to roll this side up a little bit because it makes it easier to hold it. When I show people how to do free machine embroidery for the first time, I do suggest that you use an embroidery hoop and you stretch your fabric in it so it's nice and tight, and it also gives you something to hold on to while you're learning. But once you're past that stage, you know, you can use anything as long as it's stiff enough that the machine isn't going to eat your fabrics, okay? And you can go forwards and you can go backwards if you've got a mind to be risky and take a chance and not worry about where you're going. So this is kind of what it looks like now. It's very simple. What I love about doing something like this is it's kind of an instant background, and because you've turned your edges in as you go, it's an instant finished piece really. It doesn't need, you know, framing. You could be hanging this on the wall quite easily. You could just put if you want to smarten it up at the back, you put a bit of, I don't know, iron-on interfacing, or you just, you know, stick a bit of fabric on the back. So you can see the very, very simple stitching. It's quite random. Little bits of funny bits here and there just to make it a bit different widths of stitching, you know. So, and I've managed to get it so it more or less stays in A4 shape, which is quite a miracle really, because often I find when you do things like this the edges get pulled in. But isn't that nice? That's really effective, really simple. You know, it doesn't matter which way up it goes. In fact, I might put it that way up, possibly, because I've got this dark bit at the bottom. Who knows? Who knows? It doesn't really matter. It's for a letter. So here's my letter A. I'm going to pop that on. You see, now, doesn't that really stands out now on there. And it's a question of whether I position it sort of middle. I think middle-ish would be quite nice. So you've got those two, got the change of fabric in the middle there. That's quite nice. So I'd be pinning this on. And it's a question of whether I stitch this on now or whether I do some, I've just got some little seedy head things here. Now this is from a previous project ages ago, and I'm looking at what sort of size seed heads I could be doing. So you could have some sort of little seed heads popping up from inside there. You do some little ones as though they're in the distance, and then you could have something really big, kind of almost obscuring the letter somehow, or, you know, big ones that are just partly behind and partly in front. And I haven't quite made up my mind yet, so I'm just messing around with these. It's quite useful to have these. I mean, you could be doing this on your computer, you could be doing some clever drawings, I'm sure, seeing what you feel like. So if I take that one out, it's actually got a stalk on it. And this just gives me an idea, a feel for things. And then I'll have to stitch it. I'll have to make some decisions, make some choosing. So some of them could be behind, and some of them could be in front, and they could be just sort of wafting around. It could be a really huge seed head that takes up the whole of that somehow. I need to do a bit of choosing.